Hey guys, it's Xander here, and we're back looking at brews in Standard. This is a Simic Ascendancy deck, based on the new mechanic that's come out with Ravnica Allegiance, Adapt. And I'm going to touch over the main board here, talk about the sideboard, interactions between, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. So to start off the lineup here, we're running a 4 of Hydroid Crassus, which is for X and 2, so green and blue. It's a 0/0 Jellyfish Hydra Beast, with when you cast this spell, you gain half X life, and draw half X cards, rounded down each time. It has flying and trample, and Hydroid Crassus enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. This thing can draw a shitload of cards, gain you a bit of life, and comes in as a huge game-winning creature. Insanely cool card. A 4 of Incubation Druid, which is for 2, so 1 and a green. It's a 0/2 Elf Druid. With tap, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. If Incubation Druid has a +1/+1 counter on it, add 3 mana of that type instead. For 5, you can adapt 3, so for 3 and 2 green, you can put 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and you can do that at any time. Great bit of mana ramp in the deck. A lot of the times you're playing dual lands, being able to tap for any color that you're available to tap for. Continuing on with the 2 drops, we're also running a 4 of Growth Chamber Guardian, which is for 2, 1 and a green. It's a 2/2 Elf Crab Warrior with pay 3, adapt 2, so 2 and a green to put 2 +1 counters on it. And then whenever 1 or more +1 counters is put on Growth Chamber Guardian, you may search your library for a card named Growth Chamber Guardian, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Insanely cool card. Being able to do this as a combat trick at instant speed is awesome. The fact that it can basically replace itself by fetching another one, or even just filling your board up with more Growth Chamber Guardians that are essentially turned into 4/4s. And I think we're going to see a whole lot more of it in the upcoming Standard. A 4 of Pelt Collector, which is for 1 green. It's a 1/1 Elf Warrior with whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, if that creature's power is greater than Pelt Collector's, put a +1/+1 counter on Pelt Collector. As long as Pelt Collector has 3 or more +1 counters on it, it has Trample. Great card. We see it pretty much everywhere at the moment. A lot of people have been trying to break it, and I feel like it slots in really well with this Adept deck. The synergies with the when it dies stuff, because a lot of the stuff will be bigger on death instead of when it's entering the battlefield, but Pelt Collector is just always going to be a good card. Also running a 4 of Benthic Biomancer, which is for 1 blue, a 1/1 Merfolk Wizard Mutant, which has pay 2, adapt 1, so 1 and a blue to put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then when 1 or more counters are put on Benthic Biomancer, you draw a card and then discard a card. Good bit of draw card in the deck, can help filter through the cards. We've got plenty of ways in the deck to keep moving counters across or put extra counters on stuff, so this can be a really good draw engine for us. At a 1 cost, it's an insanely good value. We're also running a 2 of Combine Guild Mage, which is for 2, so green and a blue. It's a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard, which has pay 2, 1 and a green. Tap this creature. Each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, which means that as soon as we play a Benthic or a Pelt Collector or a Growth Chamber Guardian coming in as a 3/3 or a 2/2 coming in as a 2/2 and drawing a card, it's got a lot of potential with it. It's also got pay 2, so 1 and a blue, to tap to move a +1 counter from target creature you control onto another target creature you control. So we can make our Incubation Druids tap for 3. We can draw cards off Benthics. We can make Pelt Collectors a 4/4 and swing in with Trample. Synergizing great with most of the cards in the deck. I feel like combining the 2 of is definitely a good choice. Touching on the spells, we have some draw card in the form of Chemist's Insight, which is for 4, 3 and a blue. At instant speed, you can draw 2 cards, and it also has Jump Start. So you can cast this spell from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs. It's an awesome bit of recursive draw card that allows us to keep filtering through our deck and draw into more of our big threats. Playing a little bit of removal in the form of Incubation Incongruity. So Incubation is for 1 hybrid, so blue or green. You can look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them, put that card into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And Incongruity is for 3, so 1, a green, and a blue. At instant speed, you exile target creature, and that creature's controller gets a 3/3 green frog lizard creature token. Exile target creature, insanely good in Simic colors. It's awesome that they've got this bit of removal, and it's great that it's on a dual card because ability to pick and choose is awesome. The namesake and one of the big win cons that we're playing in the deck is Simic Ascendancy, which is an enchantment for 2, so green and a blue. It's an enchantment that sits on the battlefield, and it's got pay 3, so 1, a green and a blue, to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, again synergizing with pretty much all of our stuff. But whenever 1 or more +1 counters are put on a creature you control, you put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. I feel like this is a really good start to see whether or not we can break this card. There is a shitload of +1 counter synergies in this deck. I do want to play around with the Merfolk version of the deck, because Kamina's ability to put +1 counters on all your Merfolk and all of the other +1 counter Merfolk synergies, I think that's another good shell for it. This is just focusing more on the adapt side of stuff, but I'll definitely be touching on another Simic Ascendancy deck in the future. Awesome card, can't wait to keep playing with it. Just touching on the last creature that's in the deck, we're running Biomancer's Familiar in a 3-of, which is for 2, so green and a blue. It's a 2/2 mutant. With activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect reduces the amount of mana to an ability's cost to be no less than 1 mana. And it's also got tap. The next time target creature adapts this turn, it adapts as though it had no +1 counters, which means that we can, for 1, adapt 2 on Growth Chamber, and then tap, do it again, making it a 6/6. Or we can, for 1 blue, tap and draw a couple of cards. It's just, yeah. It's not something that I wanted to play too many copies of. I don't want to see 4 of this, because it's a pretty dead card by itself, but the synergy with a lot of the cards that are in this deck means it's something that we want to see more often than not. So 3 is definitely the number that I think is right for this. One of the other big finishes in the deck that synergizes really well with the Simic Ascendancy is our 2 copies of Biogenic Upgrade, which is for 6. So for 4 and 2 green, at sorcery speed, you distribute 3 +1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures, and then double the number of +1 counters on each of those creatures. So if we've already got counters on any of these, and then doubling them, the chances are that if we've got a moderate board full of all of these adapt creatures or Pelt Collectors, and we have a Simic Ascendancy out, a Biogenic Upgrade is just going to win us the game on the next turn. Definitely want to be running in at least in a 2-of, just as a bit of a janky way to just win the game out of nowhere with Simic Ascendancy. Kind of a 2-card combo, but yeah, I think it's a great card and it's definitely going to see play in this deck. 2 copies of Search for Azcanta, which is for 2, 1, and a blue. It's a legendary enchantment that sits on the battlefield, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you can look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard, and then if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you can transform Search for Azcanta. Then it turns into Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, which taps for blue, or you can pay 3, so 2 and a blue, to tap and look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Filters through the deck, helps us pick out the cards that we need, and it adds to the land base. Just touching on the land base here, we're running 5 forests, 4 islands, 4 hinterland harbors, which comes in tapped unless you control a forest or island, tap for green or blue. 4 breeding pools, which is a forest island, comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life, tap for green or blue. 2 copies of Memorial to Genius, which is a land that comes in tapped and it's got tap for blue, or you can pay 5, tap, sacrifice it, so for 4 and a blue. You tap, sacrifice it to draw 2 cards, just a couple of copies of that one. And then 2 copies of Field of Ruin. The Field of Ruin is tap for colorless, or pay 2, tap, sacrifice Field of Ruin to destroy target non-basic land card an opponent controls. Each player searches his or her library for a basic land card and puts it onto the battlefield and shuffles his or her library. Against other decks with Search for Azcanta or other flip lands, Field of Ruin can be really good. Hitting their dual lands, something that can slow them down. Field of Ruin is just a really good card. Touching over the sideboard here, we're running a 3 of Selective Snare for the tribal or token matchups. So for X and 1 blue, at sorcery speed you return X target creatures of the chosen creature type of your choice to their owner's hand. 3 copies of Essence Capture, which is essentially a Essence Scatter. The Essence Capture is for 2 blue. At instant speed, you counter target spell, and then you can put a +1 counter on up to 1 target creature you control. It's in here for the synergy in the deck. The +1 counter to a creature is a good perk to have on a counter spell. 3 copies of Naturalize, which is for 2, for 1 and a green. At instant speed, you destroy target artifact or enchantment. 2 copies of River's Rebuke, which is for 6, so 4 and 2 blue. At sorcery speed, you return all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hand. 2 copies of Negate, which is for 2, 1 and a blue. At instant speed, you counter target non-creature spell. And 2 copies of Syncopate, which is for X and blue. At instant speed, you counter target spell unless the control pays X, and if it would be countered this way, it's exiled instead of going into its owner's graveyard. That is the sideboard, and that has been Simic Ascendancy in Standard. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to see new videos as they are released. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, you can throw me $1 on my Patreon at patreon.com/SandersQuest. And I will see you guys in the next video. Keep questing, guys.